let's bring our Q&A onto the stage. Everybody, how you doing? You good?
Doing great, yeah.
All right, everyone say something at least so we can hear you.
Yeah.
Good?
Yes.
All right, okay. All right, we hear you. All right. So we've got quite a few questions that have gathered. This is a big panel. There's 4 people. So I'm going to start with Manfred because he was the first speaker. So Manfred, the first question for you, the most votes on this question, it says, is there an easy way to manage AngularJS or Angular JSON in a monorepo where there are multiple apps and libs? Are there any plans to split Angular JSON per app and lib?
Not that I know of, but perhaps Alex from the Angular team knows more about this.
Okay.
Unfortunately not, because I don't work on tooling directly, but that sounds like a great idea. I would suggest file a feature request on the Angular CLI repo. That seems like something we could work on designing.
Yeah. Good. Okay, cool. Thanks. Next question for Manfred. What is your take on using Lerna versus NX for managing monorepos?
Well, it does not take much. You can download it using npm init. That means you just need this command and it downloads a script which is creating a monorepo with the newest NX version, and that's it. So you can directly use it. The more interesting question is, what does it take if you have an existing Angular project? Because in that case, you'll need somehow to copy your files over to the new mono repository. There is an upgrade script, but this only works if you have just one Angular application in your mono repository. Otherwise, you need to copy everything over by hand. And this is at first quite easy. I mean, copying files is not a big deal, but if you copy over the files, all your sins are coming up, the sins of the past. You will notice that you have cyclic dependencies, and this is the hardest part of it.
Yeah.
Resolving all the cyclic dependencies. When you just have a tiny amount of projects, you don't even notice them. But if you have a lot of projects, the compiler is not that happy about cyclic dependencies.
So the question was your opinion on Lerna versus NX.
Yeah, so I prefer NX because it is more lightweight. Lerna has the approach of having a lot of different projects, and those projects are orchestrated by Lerna. With NX, I have one project, and this project is wired up with all the libraries using path mappings.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks, Manfred. Next question is for one of the other 3. I'm not sure who. It says, where do you keep feature flags? Can you give a few examples of best practices for these flags?
Yeah, so it's probably for me because I was talking about it. One place to keep it would be on your content management system itself, because as you can remember, this is something that you can pull live. So if you do want that ability to switch it on and off, you can have a configuration key, and from there you can switch on and off. But if you're using tools like Launch Darkly, then that interface itself will give you that ability to switch on or off the flag from the Launch Darkly interface itself. So it makes it, if you use a tool like that, it's very powerful. I was talking about the edge servers. They also make sure that all their content is also spread over the edge, and in like milliseconds, your changes will reflect on the site.
Awesome. Thanks, Vishal. All right, so the next question is for Wesley. Best advice. The question's not entirely whole, but I'm gonna let you interpret and run with it.
So the best advice.
Oh no, hold on. Let me tell you the question. The question is how to overcome guilty of talking. So.
Oh.
Yeah. How do you overcome the guilty of talking feeling?
So basically, I think that ties into what I was saying about shame, like because you are going to be judged when you talk. When you speak and how you're presenting yourself, I can tell you the short answer that you probably heard is that you just keep doing it, and then you get used to it, and then you learn to adjust to it. But like the really deep, like come to Jesus question is like, you need to get some help. The shame is one of those things that it will eat you up, and it will color everything and every interactions, including how you see yourself. So it's one of the things that follow you even outside of that. It's just like if you have an eating problem, but you're in solitary confinement, you may be able to deal with it because you don't have access to that, but you can't shield yourself away from the world or that feeling. You're just avoiding the trigger. So if you can find a way of, one, saying that it's okay, we're all different, and accepting that, either getting some outside help, talking to your friends, getting some, or even like before a talk or before going to a networking event, have your friends talk you up, have them remind you of how awesome you are and why you are a person that is worth knowing and why people want to be friends with you. That is how you kind of get over it, by finding ways to sidestep the shame as much as possible. But like I said, this is about the media and our environment and what the environment tells us. So make sure you realize that it's not just you. It's so if this problem's bigger than you because this is where it came from, realize the solution is bigger than you too, and get help.
Awesome. Thank you. We have another question for you, Wesley. I think it's a hard one. A lot of people have this question. How do you handle anxiety of accidentally doing one of the don'ts? Like asking a question that implies a specific status or saying too much, you know?
Yeah. So this is not one of the don'ts is not, if you do this, you're dead. You just kill the conversation. The don'ts are, be mindful of this stuff and try to steer away from it, because the more you don't do in that list, the better off you are. It's like I said, the way that we learn networking is not through a class. It's not something that we're brought up doing. It's something that we are just hearing other people do, and we take something or we watch a movie. And this is a lifetime of conditioning. So the stuff that you saw on that list, you are going to do. Just, it's like when you buy a brand new car and then you start seeing that car everywhere. Awareness of what it is will make you see it and be able to spot it. And once you do that, you'll be better at not doing those things. So just make sure that you give yourself some grace there. It's okay to do stuff on that list. I don't want to add to your anxiety. That's not the purpose. It's to make you feel a little bit more comfortable by, one, making sure that you know how to start and how to continue. And if you stumble on one of these things, I mean, it doesn't kill a conversation, and just keep going.
Okay. Awesome advice. Thank you. So next question. Is it possible to structure a monorepo in a way that you can check out only part of it or a specific library from within the project?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I think we don't have the technologies for that, but this is exactly what the people at Google are doing. I think they have their own tooling that allows them to check out a monorepository or their one and only repository partly.
What
but
about?
I don't know of an open software that is doing this.
Okay. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't know of anything in the kind of external ecosystem that approximates that part of our setup. I don't know how well something like Git submodule would interact with NX for checking out specific parts of the repo only. I imagine you could do something creative there, but I've not seen any examples of that set up in a prepackaged way yet.
Okay, cool. All right, next question. Vishal. This is a question about feature toggles, yeah? They say for new features, do you remove the toggle later Is it not too many if else's in the code? Like, are you with tons and tons of feature toggles? How do you remove them? And the second part would be, is it just add too much complexity to your code to if else everything like that?
Yeah, well, good point. Like I said, you should only use it when if you feel the need for it. If that feature is not that critical, don't do it. Don't over-engineer always. But where it's needed, if-else statement is one way to do it. But you can also do things like take advantage of Angular's dependency injection. So based on the value of the flag, you could inject a different service that does things differently for you. So these are load a dynamic component based on the flag value. So this way, the killing the old feature is taking it out would be easier. But I have to say that it can be really messy sometimes. For example, there's a change which goes through different files. You have to change links and stuff at so many places. Then in that case, these are so many if-else statements. And we typically, how we take out to answer that question, we wait for the new one to be stable. So when we are doing incremental rollout, we wait for it to go 100%, and then wait for the next release to take out the code which was for the old flow. And the same thing goes for anything simple feature on-off flags as well. Once the other, once it's live and once it's proven itself, it's always good to take out the dead code, because you definitely do not want to increase your code base.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I have another question for you, Vishal.
Okay.
Hold on, I had it. Where did it go? It switched. It moved. Okay. People want to know, and I don't know if you can answer this. Feel free to say no. What headless CMS is Delta using, and do you recommend that CMS?
Well, I cannot talk specific tools. That's why I kept it a little generic. But to be honest, if you really are good at pulling out info about a site, you can really do that. There's a lot of options right now, and I was seeing someone share links about tools as well. So you got a lot of, we obviously use enterprise tools, but there are tools at all levels for your CMS. For small apps, you probably want to go for something which has low licensing costs, and so you've got a lot of options, is all I would say.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. All right, Manfred, do you have any recommended strategies to slowly moving towards a clean architecture when your depth graph already looks like a tangled cord analogy?
Yeah, okay. Nice question. So I guess in this case, as you use this term, it is causing pain for you. And when it is causing pain for you, I would quickly move to another architecture. I'm always asking a customer when I'm coming to them, where are your pain points? Because if there are no pain points, it does not make sense to change the architecture just for fun, just to be one of the cool people. But if there are pain points, then I would say take some time, perhaps a sprint, set up an empty monorepository and try to copy over everything into tiny libraries. And as mentioned before, 80% of that is quite straightforward. And in the rest, 20%, you will struggle with cyclic dependencies. This is what you have to solve. But most likely you will do it in one sprint. This is what I've seen.
Awesome. Thanks, Manfred. Okay, Alex, question for you, bud. Is there any way to force strict errors to be reported on every build after an initial ng-serve?
Strict errors to be reported on every build after the first ng-serve?
Yeah, the person asking is saying that they only see the errors on the first build, but after that initial build, like maybe they make a change, the errors are not there anymore, is what they're claiming.
If that's the case, it's a bug, and if you file it with a reproduction, I will fix it.
Okay, cool.
Because we should be showing the same errors on every compilation.
Okay, cool. All right. All right, Wesley, the next question is for you. It's a top voted question right now. It says, what if the other person does not stop talking and goes on? What if the other person does not give you the space to have your turn and interrupts when you start talking?
If that bothers you, then I would put that person in the unaligned category and use the tips to exit the conversation by going to the bathroom, saying that you need some air and taking a step out, saying that, that you need to refresh your drink. And there are ways to do that actually, if for some reason, if this person seems like a good person, like they have a good heart, but it's just like, you can't have this conversation. There are ways to mitigate that by saying, hey, who else do you know here? And where you can use that person and that their network to bring you into and bring a third person in. And that can help temper that circle of conversation. So if it kind of like splits it so that they can't dominate. Or you can take the person that you've met previously while you're networking and introduce that person to that other person. So that way you're not burning a bridge, you're finding a graceful way of exiting, or you're bringing in someone else to help you so that if that person is so overpowering that you can maybe spread that a little bit.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. And I'm going to do our last question for top vote. All right. We're going to go to Manfred. Last question. What is the recommended way for us to share environment variables in our NX libs?
So what I do is I make all my libraries configurable. That means I have some way to pass some data to my libraries, to my feature libraries, to my UI libraries. I really try to prevent the situation where there is a big configuration service where everyone depends upon. Because in this case, you have this intermingled situation I've talked about. But I like to read the configuration data at the beginning when the application starts, and then I'm passing the configuration data using something like for root or using some services to the individual libraries.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, the four of you, one for you, Manfred, can you blog an example of that?
Of course.
Okay. And then for the four of you, a lot of people asking for your slides. Can you guys tweet those slides out?
Can do.
Perfect.
Yep, I'll do that.
Great talks. Thank you for being a part of this. Thanks for helping us remain socially not distant while we're physically distant. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.